HasanAbi Corporate. I don't even know what that is. Here's a great way to tie this back to gaming.
We might no longer be able to play some of our favorite games based on a decision made by game development platform Unity. Unity has been used to make some of the world's biggest games, including Cult of the Lamb, Among Us, and Fall Guys. They'll be charging developers every time a game is installed after a game has made $200,000 and reached 200,000 installs. With Unity games on Game Pass, Unity says that indie developers won't be affected because the distributor will be charged for those games, like Microsoft. This could still hurt indie developers, as Microsoft might be less willing to take risks on smaller games. Mike Blackney, developer of Dead Static Drive, explains the problem well. Make a game. Game is freemium. Game makes $200K from in-app purchases after being installed 3 million times. Now owe Unity 20 cents per 2.8 million installs, $560K. That's $360K more than we made. The developers of Among Us are saying they'll have to delay content and features players actually want to port their game elsewhere, and that many developers won't have the time or means to do the same. Cult of the Lamb tweeted, "Buy Cult of the Lamb now because we'll be deleting it on Gen 1st. Joel, programmer and writer at the studio that made Dredge, tweeted, "With Unity's fee per install, free demos skew towards becoming a liability. This absolutely sucks. What the Unity?"
I love this because it's like indie games were the one area where developers could express their creativity without being burdened by the same like shareholder value hangups that you would have in a massive corporation under the umbrella of a massive company. And now I suspect, I don't know what changed internally with Unity, but I assume they got bought out or something. Developers spoke throughout the day of delaying their games to switch to rival Epic Games on Unreal Engine or other services on X, platform formerly known as Twitter. But by the evening, Unity exec Mark Whitten was updating Axios on the policies, potentially diffusing some concerns raised by game creators. The new runtime fee announced Tuesday morning is tied to a player's installations of a game, an action that previously didn't cost developers anything. Unity's CEO used to be EA CEO. He previously posited charging gamers to reload mid-game. Nah, the CEO's been terrible for a while now, just even more with this. Yeah. Unity is also the developer engine. It's the easiest one to use. They didn't get bought out. Their CEO's just a sociopath. That's awesome. Unity CEO John Riccitiello was EA CEO when FIFA 09 launched loot boxes. Great, dude. That is great. I have to literally port my entire project to a new engine now. 2 to 3 years worth of progress. Unity's already getting pounded by the Unreal Engine 5, which made the development more accessible to new indie devs. This will absolutely kill Unity. Unity CEO calls mobile devs who don't prioritize monetization idiots. John Riccitiello didn't mince words when it came to developers who might not utilize Unity's new suite of ad tech. Nothing is sacred. Nothing is good. Nothing will ever be the same. If there is any kind of art that you appreciate, it will inevitably get captured by these vile, vulturous, capitalist parasites who will try to squeeze value out of every orifice. Profit is what is important. Unity announced yesterday, amid layoffs, by the way, that it will merge with ad tech firm ironSource. Among other things, this partnership will give developers who use the engine more ways to monetize and rise above the noise, according to the Unity general manager, Mark Whitten. At this point in the conversation, PocketGamer.biz characterizes focus on monetization as receiving pushback for some creatives, giving Riccitiello a chance to sound off. It's not enough that you're just, it's not enough if you charge people to use your service, because we need to put DLCs in every aspect of commodity production. This, by the way, is also entering other commodities as well. The John Deere style of not giving you full ownership of the product that you're purchasing at the price point that they've declared is not just a concept exclusive to that field anymore, okay? It's happening with Mercedes-Benz. It's happening with Tesla. It's happening with BMWs, where you have to pay additional subscription fees to fucking heat your goddamn seats. And it's going to keep happening. Hidden fees are a perfect way for them to squeeze out more profits. I was looking at Unity's financial reports, and they nearly doubled their revenue 2023 Q2 from 2022 Q2, and by double I mean Q2 2023 they almost made $600 million. And then they laid off. Well, I mean, they probably did that because they engaged in layoffs too. Connor Eats Pants sends, "No More Heroes 3 is the only video game that lets you beat the ever-living dog out of the current CEO of Unity in a Smash Bros. Style boss fight approved by Nintendo. and it was made in the Unreal Engine 2. Tap in. The main antagonist of Travis Strikes Back, the VM portion of TSA, who also shows up in the new No More Heroes 3 trailer, is Damon Ricciello. The second name, Ricciello, is interesting as the CEO in charge of EA while GHM were developing SOTD, was called John Ricciello. That's so sick.
I don't want to die! 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 I don't want to die!
I've still got somewhere to go home to. But you don't!
I don't want to die! I don't want to die.
They know what they were doing. The former CEO sold stock. Unity bosses sold stock ahead of the scummy dev fees announcement. There's nothing you can do about this. Employees always lose out on situations like this. They have no control. They have no protections. The only thing that you would have, the only tool that a worker has at his disposal in a situation like this, if you feel powerless in the face of this kind of corporate consolidation, in the face of this kind of parasitic activity from capital owners, is labor power in the form of collective bargaining that you can only express through the process of unionization. Okay? That's it. That's literally it. That's all you can do. Okay? If you are unionized, if all sectors were adequately unionized, you could at least push back on these mass layoffs. You could at least push back on decisions like this. You would have a stay. You would have a say in the process. You would have a stake in the company. That's it. There's nothing else you can do. Did you see the Unity response to the backlash? Unity says, "We are listening. Upon reflection, we realize we should have sought more input from our community and value partners before implementing such a significant change. We fell short in this aspect, and for that, we're genuinely sorry. We've always prided ourselves on our transparent and symbiotic relationship we have with our user base. Unity's success story is intrinsically linked to the achievements of our growth of our developers. Effective immediately, we will be taking a 50% revenue split from our games and investing it directly in AI technology you love. We also might buy another adware company." Okay, this is a joke. God damn it. You. "We also might buy another adware company or launch a third SRP. Shut the fuck up and take it." That's a joke. I don't know why I took it seriously at first. It had me in the first half, not gonna lie. It was written so perfectly, like a genuine corporate PR apology, and then yeah. Jeff Keighley called them out. The GOAT. Unity rushes to clarify price increase plan as game developers fume. This is the actual walkback, but
Unity have said fees will not be charged for installations of game demos unless the demo is part of a download that includes the full game or an upgrade to the full game. Early access games will still be charged for an installation. This means developers are less likely to do things like early access. Jacob Janerko, who's making the dungeon experience, tweeted, "Our game on release will now only be playable in my house with cash payment, and he is offering complimentary tea and a firm handshake. But don't worry guys, the Unity fee doesn't apply to gambling."
Thank God. That's great, man. That's great. Developers paying over $2,000 a year for Unity Pro plan would have to hit higher thresholds and will be charged with lower fees. The new fee system will begin in the start of 2024. They haven't even walked it back yet. It's still hog shit. There is a breakdown of the update from an affected dev. Here, let's watch the MAGA Mail video on this. Because apparently our fave, he made a video on it called "This Company is Scamming Game Devs." MAGA Mail looking more MAGA than ever, by the way, with this fucking haircut.
"I know it looks bad. I'm gonna shave it. The only reason I haven't shaved it yet is because I have a pimple underneath. It's a genius strategy I came up with. It's a pimple-blocking mustache."
I'm going to pee. I'll be back.
Let's talk about what we're here to talk about today, which is some huge gaming drama. And for once, it's not on the esports side of things, which is going horribly per usual. But it's about the much more interesting side of gaming, the side that makes money, game development. And there's one company in particular seeing all the money be made, and they want a little piece of it. And that company is Unity, who tweeted out today that they made a change to their business model, which includes new additions to our subscription plans and the introduction of a runtime fee. To which I read this morning and thought to myself, what the hell's a runtime fee? And moved on with my day until I saw the claws come out from Jeff Keighley, who dropped a "what a joke" period in response. This is a scathing response from a normally well-mannered man. So I thought to myself, what's going on? Why is the social media manager copy and pasting the phrase fraud detection? It seems like we've got a mystery on our hands, Scoobs. And so we have to start at the beginning. What is Unity? And to clear that up, well, it is a game engine. It's a place where you make video games, and different developers use it to make games that you recognize, like Fall Guys or Cuphead or Hollow Knight or any of the games on this list, which are all amazing games. Okay, how does Unity make money? Or how did Unity make most of their money? Well, through a subscription service. You basically sign up monthly or yearly. There's different plans for an enterprise or an individual. There's even a free plan, and that's kind of how you get hooked. And they even increased the price of their plan last year almost to the day, September 13th, 2022. So they were trying to make a little bit more money. But recently, as they tweeted out, they want to make money in a new way. And this new way is the runtime fee. And in it, they say, as many of you know, the Unity engine is in fact two substantial software components, the Unity editor and the Unity runtime. Unity runtime is code that executes on player devices and makes made with Unity games work at scale with billions of monthly downloads. So basically, anytime you buy a game and then you go to install the game, you're also installing the Unity runtime. And this is the end of where I will explain what it is. Just know that you use it every time you use a Unity game, and you need to be using it. And Unity also needs to be updating it so it works with different computers and OSs and whatever the hell. Okay? And I'm not going to try to explain any further because I'm dumb and you're going to make fun of me in the comments. It's what's going to happen. Let's make it simple. Every time you play a Unity game, you must run the runtime software. Unity has to keep developing this software to work on every single PC or console or whatever, so they're hoping to make a little extra money. They're also a corporation, so of course they want to make extra money. And how are they trying to get it? By charging developers per install. Now, there's some additional rules and caveats like thresholds of who they're actually trying to target, which is usually larger developers, and how much they're willing to take, which scales lower and lower the bigger your game is. But at its core, that's the big shift, which is a huge shift because they went from a subscription-based model where there's a flat fee the developers knows they're going to pay to a scalable model where now big games are going to have to pay a lot more money. And it doesn't even have to be that big to start paying a huge chunk. Here's an example from...
You know what's really funny about this, by the way? They always... This is something I've noticed from my own personal experience talking to CEOs in different sectors, is that they literally try to claim that this is like a progressive tax, okay? When it's like, that's not how commodity production works, okay? Like, no, you're just adding additional fees. This is an entirely separate planet than taxation, okay?
Unity's website directly. I don't even have to make up the numbers. They did it for us. In this example, we have a game that made $2 million in the past year and had 5 million installs, which surpasses both thresholds. If they were to have 200,000 installs from standard fee countries and 100,000 installs from emerging market fee countries, they would owe $23,500 in just 1 month. If that keeps going for a year, they would owe $282,000 or 14% of this $2 million revenue number that they posted, which is insane. 14% of all of the money you make is high. It is much higher than a company like Unreal Engine, a competitor who charges a 5% license fee and does a revenue share system. And it doesn't just impact big devs. It also impacts some smaller indie creators, like one you might recognize, Danny, who tweeted out a meme here, because obviously no fees are retroactive. Oh shit, I guess I owe Unity $5.6 million because he made Muck and Crab Game, which were huge games, 28 million downloads. And he used the Unity personal pricing, which was 20 cents per install. But even if you use the Unity enterprise pricing, that would still be like $280,000 owed. And again, to be clear, this does not charge a developer who hasn't made at least $1 million with their game, but it does set some scary precedents. Specifically, this meme. Unity is making this real. Pirate game. Delete it and download it again 9 more times. Company loses $600. Is this becoming true now? Can there be campaigns to reinstall games?
Unity wanted to count web visits as an installation. Are you serious? Install definition. The installation and initialization of a game or app on an end user's device, as well as distribution via streaming or web browser, is considered an install. Games or apps with substantially similar content may be counted as one project with installs then aggregated to calculate the Unity runtime free. No shot. Yes, because Unity also works on browsers. Elwig is wrong. At least yesterday they stated the fee is retroactive for the last 4 years. That's insane. They're going to like try and claw back fees as well from like indie developers. Like what the it doesn't make any oh god. This video has a lot of misinformation. Fees are not applied retroactively on old installs. Old games are effective, but only new installs after 2024. Unity stock since yesterday's glorious announcement of charging developers per install of their game starting 2024. Yeah, except guess what? Unity bosses sold stock ahead of the scummy dev fees announcement. So they're fine, you know what I mean? They're better off than the people that will inevitably get laid off. They're better off than the indie developers that will no longer be able to use that. Lol, they changed it over the day, turning a big dial that says business school on it and constantly looking back at the audience for approval like a contestant on a Price is Right. This has to make gamers more communist? No, it won't. Dude, this has been happening. Gamers hate EA, and they don't understand why they hate EA, so then they yell about pronouns. Do you understand? This has not changed. In my lifetime, this industry has ballooned into one that is larger than the movie industry and the music industry combined. And yet, gamers do not have the mental fortitude to comprehend that this is just pure extraction, okay? It's extortion. It's capital owners, ruining their experience and the art that they enjoy and consume, okay? They hate microtransactions. They hate DLCs. They hate all this shit, and they don't even understand the major reasons as to why this is happening. And then they end up becoming more and more reactionary as they fling towards dumb like fucking pronouns. Stop current daying us. It's corporate greed through and through. It is no different than the original story I was talking about, which led me into this coverage anyway, which is that Americans, not even just gamers, right? Just most people living in this country look at that guy, the Tim Gurner guy, and go, F that piece of shit. That guy is evil. While they simultaneously refuse to comprehend. They have this like inability to understand that what that guy is saying is no different than what the government is doing and is no different than what every other capital owner is interested in doing to you. Okay? This is class consciousness, and America is devoid of it. A big part of what I try to do is explain that to people and instill that among people, and for that I have, of course, been shitted on and vilified endlessly as they point to like some made-up hypocrisy that they have in their minds about me and my financial success, being like, oh, Hasan, you're rich, shut the fuck up. People are conditioned to not understand who's the one that's fucking them. People are also conditioned into taking that anger that they feel because they recognize that they're getting fucked, but they don't know who's doing the fucking because everybody lies about who's doing the fucking. And so they're angry, and that anger needs to be directed in a certain direction. So who do you direct that anger to? People that are just like worse off than you in some way, while simultaneously telling you that that person that's worse off than you in some ways is actually better off than you. You see this in politics every day. Every day you see this. I'll go to the Reconstruction. Okay, the period of Reconstruction. That was a failed project. Made to fail. In the immediate aftermath of the abolition, there was a short period in time where white working class individuals and newly freed slaves, who were now a part of the black working class, started recognizing that they were actually united on their class interests. They were both working for wages, and they wanted to increase those wages. In order to break this unification, capital owners, both in the South and also in the North, realized that the absolute best strategy here was to keep dividing the working class on racial boundaries. At least I'm not black was the motto of the Southerner who recognized that he was also getting shafted by the same bosses in many instances, but turned around and bullied those who had even less than him, bullied those who disrupted the previous social hierarchy by simply existing. This way, even if you were getting absolutely f***ed over by your bosses as a white working class individual, you still had someone to look down at, a black person. Offer some social amenities, offer like aesthetic and sometimes meaningful advantages by putting forward additional hurdles and disadvantages to the newly freed slaves, and you have a secondary hierarchy and another permanent underclass that basically became legal, a legalized form of slavery in the form of the 13th Amendment. It was not simply to abolish slavery, but instead to place legalized slavery under the auspices of the criminal justice system, because slavery is still legal in America as long as someone is in prison. That's it. It's exactly how white supremacist capitalists, colonialism, and the sugar plantations had such staying power and monopoly in Hawaii, dividing the working class by racial boundaries. Yes. And it still works to this day. To this day, it still works. Yeah, I mean, the classic quote, if you can convince the lowest white man that he is better than the best colored man, he won't notice you're picking his pocket. Hell, give him somebody to look down on, and he'll empty his pockets for you. From Lyndon Big Johnson. It's true. This example exists in every aspect of American society because America is a capitalist nation. America is not a white nation. America is not a Christian nation. America is not a liberal democracy. America is a capitalist nation. Capitalism is our religion. Okay? And the Constitution is our Bible, and the Supreme Court is our modern day priests that interpret it and have full-blown power over your lives. Therefore, this happens in every facet of existence, including something as silly as like independent game developers. Okay?
And those were answered in a Q&A by some people at Unity. How are you going to collect install data? Well, we leverage our own proprietary data model, which gives us, we think, an accurate determination of the number of times the runtime is distributed. Basically, trust us, bro. Okay, well, what about reinstalls or re-downloads? Would that count as multiple installs? Yes. The creator would need to pay full for all future installs. Okay. What about a demo? Like you release a game that costs money and then you release a demo and they have to install that demo, which also uses the runtime software. And it's like mostly no, but sometimes maybe. All right. What about pirated games? People who illegally download the game, but they're still running the runtime software because they have to do it to play the game. Well, again, trust us, bro. We have fraud detection practices. Basically, there's a lot of reliance on Unity, which is tough to trust right now because they can't even get their message out clearly. You remember how I just told you that they would be charging for multiple installs? Well, they walked that back today. Apparently, they're only going to charge for one installation of a game. But how do they track that? Are they able to track my multiple computers or multiple devices? What if I do it on console or PC or Steam Deck? It seems like there's going to be a lot of holes. And this has scared devs shitless. It has led to the least productive day in game development history. Here's one of the creators of Among Us talking about how they're thinking about how they would port the game away from Unity to a competitor like Godot rather than actually paying these fees, because it would be cheaper to just do that. Here's Massive Monster saying, hey, we made Cult of Lamb. We like making games. We like using Unity. This shit sucks. We're going to stop using Unity. Here's Aggro Crab also signing up saying, hey, we have a game going to Game Pass. Can we actually trust?
By the way, this is also one other aspect of obviously like never-ending short-term profit seeking, but also money faucet on the tech sector getting shut off. Since the speculative market is run on vibes and everything is on the speculative market, the stock market, when your unlimited supply of money goes away and the expectation from your shareholders is to constantly increase profit margins, okay, constantly generate a quarterly earnings report that shows that you're in the green, that you're making money, where do you go? You go to people that are literally generating the value for you. Open source frogs are being commendably restrained so far. Bravo. I am an open source frog. I am a firm believer and big time advocate. I use open source software. I use OBS. It's the best. It is what the internet was created for. Okay? Now, obviously, not everything I utilize is open source. I still have an iPhone before you yell at me and be annoying. And the closest I get to ever using Linux is through my Steam Deck. And it's, definitely difficult. Kaya, your tail is stuck under my chair. What are you doing? She doesn't even realize. Every server runs Linux for all intensive purposes, and most of the internet infrastructure relies on open source software. Yeah. Sorry if I missed it, but have you gone over some more news weed video? No. And I probably won't watch it. All right, let's keep going.
Unity to
For the record, Game Pass, great for consumers, but not necessarily so great for devs in the same way that Netflix and that model is not great. The subscription model that is Silicon Valley tech disruption, right, has been massively shitty for people who generate the content, people who generate the value. I just want to point that out for everyone here. Obviously, as consumers, we love that. Okay, on the consumer side, we're like, this is great. This is sick. Love this. Okay, I get to listen to all my music. It's in one place. I don't even need to, pirate anymore. I don't even have to engage in piracy. But it's kind of the same thing. Game Pass is no different in many respects than Netflix. The subscription model is honestly a model that will probably have to go away because the inverse of it, or if the continuation of the subscription model is genuinely devastating for the people that are creating the value. This is honestly a completely incorrect take. Really? That's interesting that you say that. Because Netflix is quite literally at the heart of an ongoing labor strike. And they are the ones who are, championing the continuation of this work stoppage in Hollywood. Okay? Yes, many indie devs survive by going on Game Pass. Just wait. Butterscotch Shenanigans recently had a podcast on the topic. Just wait. Game Pass is still relatively... Game Pass is like Netflix's early stages, okay? Just wait. This is no different than the concept that, if Netflix doesn't exist, then a shit ton of the production that is a relatively low cost that people actually make projects on for Netflix specifically will no longer will no longer be done. Like these movies are not going to be made if Netflix doesn't exist. I do not. Also, the creative director of The Simpsons was extremely excited to leave the studio to go create content for Netflix. Yeah. If you personally think that Netflix has been good for content creation, I don't know what to tell you. Specifically because, once again, Netflix is too cheap for the content that you're watching. The revenue generation mechanism relies on underpaying workers, okay? There's a current ongoing strike on the rev share, or rather lack thereof, with Netflix. Where have you been? Game Pass tried to raise the price twice and people riot. The only reason they're quiet to win monopoly in cloud streaming. Yes. I use Game Pass like a game demo service. I like the game, then I buy it directly to support devs. I usually agree with you, but these subscriptions are needed in some industries. You can't just constantly have people buying your software once and update indefinitely. I think that subscription services are too low cost and mostly rely on, or at least Netflix in its inception, mostly relied on people not recognizing that millions of people were going to watch the content on the side, and got away with paying very low fees for a lot of IP that was otherwise shelved. Okay, but that in its inception was fine and understandable. Okay, studios made a cut. Studios made additional profit on old IP that without like giving it the television services, which already had a rev share model built into it in the form of residuals. Okay, studios didn't need to give any additional money to the workers for the old IP that was now being distributed again. Everybody thought this was a win-win, except now people are moving to the subscription model and no longer watching linear television. They're not going to movie theaters. They're not watching linear television. So now it's the only form of entertainment that people are engaging in. So the studios then turned around and went, well, we don't want Netflix to be the monopoly, so we should develop our own platforms or buy out other platforms. Hulu is the greatest example of this, obviously. So then they changed it into in-house streaming services, ultimately at the same price point. Subscription models, when you directly fund the creator, is going to be better than subscription models that directly fund a streaming platform that is relying on trying to monopolize, okay? Like when you give me $5 a month, okay, Twitch is still taking a pay cut of that. You get to avoid the top of the hour ad breaks, and you get to fund this operation. It's the natural evolution of capitalism, isn't it? One big blanket solution to maximize profit over entire industries. Yes. I do not believe that the Netflix model is going to survive. Either things are going to get much worse for the actual value generators, the labor force, actors, producers, people working on the sets, or we're going to have to go back. We're going to have to forcibly go back to an older distribution strategy, or Netflix itself is going to have to implement additional fees, okay, hurting their market share, and additional fees that will create residuals for the people that are making the product. Is it a relatively new phenomena to not just make money for years in order to monopolize and ruin other markets and then raise prices after everyone else is out of business? No, of course it's not a relatively new phenomena. Actually, 100 years ago, it was happening pretty aggressively, and that very same thing came back 100 years later. It's never stopped. This has been a never-ending problem. It's just that when it originally happened, or when it originally got completely out of hand, the government had to implement protective measures against this phenomena. It has been literally 100 years. Yeah, that's how we got Standard Oil broken up. Hollywood was another perfect example of trust busting, as a matter of fact. I don't know if you guys knew this, but Hollywood was quite literally one of the initiatives that the government had to engage in trust busting on. Their studio system was literally this. They were doing it. The same industry that is currently experiencing a strike literally went through this process almost 100 years ago. Pretty funny when you think about it. You make me cringe? What do you mean? Why did I make you cringe? Oh, you said mega stop. You make me cringe. He spams the same shit. He does. I know. By the way, that earlier chatter basically said devs should be thankful for the Game Pass because of a few people who make money from it, which, by the way, isn't what I was saying. I was saying that Game Pass is worse per unit revenue than direct sales for devs. Yes. The system works in a way where they take the anger that you feel and reappropriate it or redirect it towards those who are more marginalized than you, have less than you.
Track effectively people installing in Game Pass versus on their own personal computers. This is all very scary. Even publishers like Developer Digital are talking about perhaps not publishing games if they're using certain engines. They're being somewhat coy about this, but it's pretty clear people are trying to stay away from Unity now. If this decision goes through, it's going to impact everyone, including you. It's going to totally change the timelines for games that are currently in the pipeline. Games that had a few months of work are now going to be scrapped and have to be remade in a different engine. We might never see Hollow Knight Silksong. But on the other hand, I get what Unity's trying to do. They want to make money, cover their costs, make a surplus by charging the big guys. They don't want to blanket punish everybody using Unity by increasing subscription prices year over year. They want to start targeting the people that have a shit ton of downloads. People that use Unity like Pokemon Go, Genshin Impact, Honkai Star Rail, Raid, Shadow Legends. These companies are getting millions and millions and millions of downloads, and they are getting charged the same amount as an indie dev. So in a way, yes, they should maybe be charged more. That to me makes sense. But it also only works if your customers trust you, and nobody trusts Unity right now. There's way too much reliance on them for the fraud detection to make sure developers aren't getting scammed by unhappy customers, or to make sure that they're actually able to tell when someone's installing at Game Pass versus installing on their own personal PC. And how are they really able to tell if it's multiple installs or one install? So I think they should go back to the drawing board, plan this up a little bit better, stop changing the plan the same day you announce it, and then have a release sometime later on. Anyway, that's it. That's your game drama. Have a good one. See you later. Goodbye.
Did Ludwig buy into the progressive tax idea, Lemafayette? Yes. It's a perfect way to... It is a perfect way to repackage something for like more progressive people. For more progressive capitalists, you can sell that concept very well. I took the night off discourse, but now that I'm back, let's talk about how this concession by Unity still doesn't make any sense. A, they say install fees from Game Pass won't be sent to the developer since Xbox Microsoft is a distributor in that situation. But what exactly determines a distributor? When our game is sold on Steam, is Valve not the distributor? There's still so much fine print we're missing here on the massive change to our business that's supposed to go down in less than 3 months. B, this doesn't change the fact that they have self-described, not going into much detail on where exactly these install counts are going to come from, which is a massive deal. We're being asked to pay for a number that might very well be inaccurate or just plain made up. If by some incredible maneuver you actually get Microsoft, Sony, Apple, Epic, and other distributors to foot this bill, I'll let you picture how likely that is. You're just going to make those distributors want to avoid games made with your product altogether. So yeah, this is still nowhere near acceptable and is probably totally impossible in the first place. Keep trying. Anyway, to mention gameable, i.e. trolls re-downloading the game they don't like. Yeah. Aggro Crab follows you. Serial. Play their first game. Underwater Souls-like. Is this a Souls-like game? Here at RPG Maker, we don't hate our game developers like Unity does. But we got a good take. This chat will never start their own business. Lol. I mean, arguably on the performance and efficiency side, I am a more successful business owner than Ludwig is as far as my costs and my yearly earnings goes. I would say more than even like most capitalists out there that are even billionaires, okay? And I still think this is f***ing ridiculous. It's because people have a one-track mind. No matter how progressive someone might be, no matter how progressive and understanding and empathetic they might be, they still cannot live in a universe where they're not consistently expanding, okay? Stop flexing fake communists. Yeah, I'm a capitalist, dude. I love capitalism, okay? There you go. You owned me. So now, listen to what I have to say. If you want to see me as a capitalist, okay, then fine. I don't care. You know what I mean? It doesn't change what I'm saying. If anything, if you truly recognize it as such, if you truly cared about it, if you genuinely associated, like, if you genuinely thought meritocracy was real, and you genuinely associated with, like someone having a profitable business, let's say, as like as though they are the foremost authority on the subject matter, then you would shut the fuck up, sit the fuck back, and listen to what I have to say. You know what I mean? That's so stupid. It's like you can contextually try to define what I am in whatever kind of box. That doesn't change what I'm saying at all. This is why hypocrisy baiting and hypocrisy seeking is ultimately an incredibly idiotic concept. You were just paid a lot for your labor. You aren't a capitalist. It doesn't matter, though. It doesn't matter. 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 You understand? It doesn't matter because what I'm saying does not change. It doesn't matter if you call me a capitalist or a communist. It literally doesn't matter. It doesn't change my genuine, it doesn't change what I'm saying. You're not addressing the issue. You're just trying to shoot the messenger. Now, obviously, that in and of itself is a very successful strategy to undermine someone's commentary, but it's silliness. It's nonsense. Okay. Going Under is a dungeon crawler similar to Hades, all about companies taking advantage of workers. Huh, that's cool. So that was the Unity situation. Perfectly demonstrated, perfectly represented. Told you exactly why things like that are happening even in the gaming side. Of course, we got there by talking about this property developer who triggered the shit out of me.